Professor Ofehe, you've been known as an activist who was concerned about the Niger Delta issues, someone who has championed the Niger Delta cause for decades. Why are you decided to become a politician and contest the governorship election?
Well, it's a very good question. A lot of people have been asking me this question, and I think this is the best time to really share the reason behind that. You know, I've spent 23 years living in Nigeria. I left here when I was 23 years old. I have spent 27 years now in the Netherlands. So basically, I've spent 23 years living outside the country in Europe. So I have been able to see the difference between when you are on the pressure group, in this case, civil society organization, as an activist in Nigeria, and I've come to see it also in Europe. In Europe, it is very difficult for you to see people within the activism and the civil society capacity going into politics. They prefer to stay there because it's a parallel line, and they act as an arm of criticism for the government. And in Europe, it works very well for them because they also can influence voting at the election. So even when the politicians are not really agreeing to what they're saying, the politicians are compelled to listen to them because of the pressure that they carry. Now, but in Nigeria, it's not the same. In Nigeria, I've seen a lot of activists, I've seen a lot of people. In fact, you also is an activist because even from the journalistic point of view, you write articles, you do investigative stories, you come out with damning reports, but the government don't care. They don't care because there is no oversight function. There are no third parties that tend to look at the criticism you are putting on the table and see how that criticism can be directed towards the government in a way that they can change their policy. The people don't care because they know how they get vote from their voters, irrespective of what has been said about them or what has been said about their policy. So over the years, I have done everything I can to bring the opportunities that I've seen in Europe down to Nigeria. In the course of activism, we've talked about the issues in the Niger Delta, the environmental problems, the human rights problems, the suffering of the ordinary people. And then in doing that, we've met Europeans, even individuals, organizations, institutions, agencies, who are now asking, okay, what can we do? How can we solve this problem? It's also affecting us. We don't really like the way the multinational oil companies operate, but we can do X, Y, Z to stop the problem. Like, for instance, when you talk about gas flare, there are many companies out there in Europe who are saying that they can even capture those gas that are flared and use them as an alternative means of even generating income and revenue for the states, for the local government, for the people, and for the Nigerian states. But then when you bring these opportunities down to people, I know people within the government sectors, even at ministerial level, that I've discussed with on opportunities that can better or improve the lives of our people back in Nigeria. But none of them take it seriously. They act as if, for as long as it is not a thing that brings direct, immediate benefit to them, they don't care. They don't look into plans that are sustainable over time. So after going through all this back and forth, I told myself that I cannot be living in Rotterdam, a city that has everything, the solution to the problems that we face within the Niger Delta region, and see opportunities drifting to places like Ghana, Tanzania, Rwanda, all other African countries, even Kenya, are benefiting from them. But nobody is tapping into all of these opportunities. So I decided that no, I need to take the bull by the horn. As a Christian, in the book of Isaiah, where God was looking for a king over Israel, he sent him as a prophet to go look for the king. And Isaiah said, well, if God, we cannot find a king amongst these people, choose me, I am ready. That philosophy is what has transformed my current position from being an activist to becoming a politician, where I know that if the people see me as having the capacity to be their governor, I know the opportunities and the openings that I can bring into my state.
I just want you to shed more light on your transition from being a comrade to a politician, because there are two different areas. In politics, you have to, they say you have to be cunning and deceptive in a way. But if you're a comrade, an activist, you come out and say the thing as it is. So how has that transition been? Are you finding politics?
No, there's a difference between, they say politicians can be cunning. Yes, of course. I mean, they say politics is interest, but for me, I see it as, applying some level of diplomacy. I see how the Europeans do it. Even when the truth is like this, they try to be diplomatic in their approach. Do not forget that, Tony Blair said, as a leader, once you take a decision, you have instituted a divide, because your yes is at the expense of a few persons who told you the answer is supposed to be a no. So you can never, in order to lead, you can never have a 100% affirmation from policies or decisions that you take as a powerhouse. But the beauty about democracy and leadership is your ability to look into, to weigh the options that are presented before you and put the interests of the people at heart and come back to the people that are for the yes and for the no, and explain carefully why you think your decision has settled for a yes. So, no, you don't need to be corny as a politician. Find our democratic, since I stepped into the ring as a politician, I must tell you that I have had 1,001 reasons. My ears are full. Everybody's telling me every reason why they think I can't make it. They always tell me that this terrain is not for somebody like you. If it was in the Western countries, of course, you have, we know you, we know your background, we know your antecedents, we know that you can deliver, we know what you're capable of doing, but Nigerian politics is different. It's all about money and you don't have that money. Yeah, they're correct. But you see, the thing is, I thought about it myself before I even stepped into the ring. I knew of these challenges. Even before becoming a politician, my activism has brought me in the corridors of politicians, in the corridors of people within all forms of sectors, the business angle, the civil society angle, so I've been able to learn from all of that, navigate from all of that. I've seen that the Nigerian democracy is money-based because of the poverty. But within that money-based politics, I still see genuine people. I still see people who are ready to sacrifice to make sure that we become the country of their dream. So those are the people that I'm actually targeting. So what I've told my people who are following my campaign is that whoever votes for Sonny on March 11 will not be voting for Sonny because Sonny bought his vote or her vote. Whoever votes for Sonny on March 11 will be somebody who genuinely wants a change in that state. And I see many people who falls into that line. Now, in my state, it is becoming very interesting because in the course of my campaign, I've met a whole lot of people who say, well, I've decided that for 2023 election, I'm going to vote Peter Obi. But for governorship, I'll go to sleep. So a lot of people do not want to come out during the governorship because they don't want to give their vote to PDP, they don't want to give their vote to APC, and they don't see any other candidate on the ballot who will deserve their efforts to come out and vote. So once they come out for being presidential election, they stay out of the election. So I'm beginning to woo those people. The last election, the figures are out there for us to see. The two biggest political parties, the APC and the PDP, combined together could not muster up to 47% of the total registered voters. And they spent a whopping 40 billion running that election. Does that make them a strong political party? The answer is no. And now we have an increased number from 2.2 million. We're now going above the 3 million threshold on people who register to vote. And we all know that the majority of people who got inspired to feel that their vote will count in this election are not people who are coming to vote APC and PDP. So who am I targeting? I'm targeting those who are on the fence, the undecided voters. I'm targeting those who are not party affiliated, who feel that the time has come for us to change. So what I'm doing now is a strategic campaign, reaching out to unions, professional bodies, people who are supposed to be within the middle class of our economy, who unfortunately, because of bad policy, corruption, and mismanagement of public funds, have been left under the poverty line. So these are the people that I'm targeting in this election. So I won't be cunning. I will say the way it is. I have put out my manifesto is out there for everybody to see. And what I want to do is what I'm standing on. And most of the policy within my manifesto are things that are not like this. Just like an activist, are not here, are not there. I have specifically stated them. And I've told them, even meeting some of the political bigwigs in my state in the course of consultation, I have even had to tell them that if I don't deliver in my first 1 year, they can come to Sadebe House in Asaba, and I will give them my certificate of return. Yes, because I strongly believe in the network that I've built outside. I mean, we're currently in a terrible state as a country. You know, every time I visit this country, I try to come with white people. The reason why I come with white people is for them to see from the inside the true Nigerians, and not to see Nigeria from what they hear outside, from what our bad government, or from the impression that our bad government has given to them. So, looking at this election and looking at the way INEC has worked tirelessly to ensure that they carry out a free and fair election, with a modern technology that is now making it possible for our vote to count, I think that in my state, Delta, no political party, whether APC, whether PDP, can sit back today and say they're going to sleep believing strongly that they will win the election on that day. So the alternative of what my people need, which is supposed to be the beauty of democracy, which we're enjoying now, is my choice as a candidate for this next election. My party is relatively new in the state, but so far we've been able to galvanize ourselves with the campaign and the strategy with which I've put into the campaign. We've been able to galvanize ourselves to become a recognized political party. So my candidacy is no longer just candidacy that people can wave aside. No, because I am very much prepared. I have looked at the mirror, I've looked at myself, asked myself the question, do you have the capacity to lead this state to another level? Yes, I do. I do, because I believe in the state that I come from. We're blessed. We have natural resources. We have human capital. You know, we have the highest tertiary institutions in the country. So that clearly shows that in the indices of education, we are one of the best in the country. And then we have, we're the only state with 4 under-functioning seaports. We have a 165 square kilometers of coastline that we're not utilizing. Just last week, the oil multinational companies made a whopping $260 billion from crude oil. And Shell made 38 billion from that. 10% of that amount came from their production in Nigeria. My state did not get a penny from that resource. It's a shame. And we have two Focados and Escravos trunk line where this crude oil leave the country. Most of us are straight from people who say, yeah, the Northerners have taken all the oil block. Where were you when they came? Who stopped you from also applying to own one? You know, since inception of my state, today my state is the largest producer of crude oil, and yet we have no link at all to crude oil production. Rotterdam, where I live, has the highest concentration of tank farms in the whole world, and yet they do not produce crude oil. We can be the tank farm hub of the whole of African continent. And looking at what we have in the state today, my state can be likened to the California of sub-Saharan Africa. In terms of GDP, we should be 7th largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. So what we currently, where we are today as the second state with the highest debt profile in the country, where we are today as a state with the highest level of poverty compared to the resources that we have. It's a shame. And that is because of poor leadership without foresight. And that is what I have come in to change.
You almost told us what you're coming to do. We are coming to that. But first, I was going through some papers just a few minutes ago, and I discovered you emerged on the post. How did you do that? Nobody contested against you?
No, well, what happened during the primary was that when I came in to run for the primaries, they didn't have anybody who was going to run at the time. So the party decided that, okay, well, they were going to how do you call that thing? Adopt a consensus adoption. So we followed all the laid down rules of INEC in conducting a primaries where we did the counts and everything, and then it was supervised by even the resident electoral commissioner of the state. So I emerged as the flag bearer of the political party. The reason why I actually chose the political party was two things. I do not have 50 million to pay for any primary how do you call it, expression of interest and nomination form, because that is extortion from the very beginning. I mean, in a country where states are still struggling to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage, you've automatically taken more than 85% of the total population out of an opportunity to contest an election under those opportunities. I paid 8 million, which was affordable. So I'm on the ballot today as a candidate because I got a political party who could offer their nomination and expression of interest form at a rate that I could afford.
Now, in Delta, I know very well that we have a kind of operating police or original arrangement.
Yeah, rotation.
The governorship should rotate among increasing members. But what I just discovered, you are Isuku.
Yes.
From EAD.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the current governor is on the northern part. Yeah. Is the south. Mm-hmm. That is where you come from.
Yeah. Has had it.
Yeah. And they say it is because of that policy. It is the turn of the Delta Central Police this time.
Yeah.
Don't you think you are violating that unwritten policy? Why do you think people should vote for you?
Yeah, well, you just answered my question by how you also presented the policy. Unwritten, not constitutional. The beauty of democracy is that it gives everybody equal opportunity to contest an election. Tell the people of Delta State what you have for them. The choice of who governs the people of Delta State should rest in the hands of the Deltans themselves, not a few political oligarchs coming together to say, no, power has to be shared. Let us even look at the issue of equity. I come from Isoko. Now, unfortunately, we have three big ethnic nationalities constituting the Isoko, the Delta South Senatorial District. We have the Shekiris, we have the Ijos, and we have the Isokos. And among these, as I speak to you right now, the Shekiris have produced a governor, two-time governor in Udwaga. And then the Ijos are currently having the deputy governor, two times deputy governor at executive level. So the Urobos have had their fair share. Ibori was there, Ibro was there, they've had their fair share. So the only ethnic nationality that do not have, that has never had the opportunity to produce a governor is the Isoko ethnic nationality. So I think if you want to really put it in the form of equity and fairness, we shouldn't look at senatorial district. We should look at ethnic nationality, because the Isoko vote has been very significant from 1991. We determine who eventually becomes the winner of any election. And over the years, we've not had a stake at that level, not deputy governor, not governor of the state. So I think if you really want to look at it, it is the turn of the Isoko people to produce governor this time around.
But the Shekiris will also say about produce a senator in still home. Although James Manager.
No, we're talking about the executive, the highest executive power at the state level. You know, the Ijos have also produced the longest serving senator in James Manager. So, but the Isokos have never had that opportunity to have someone, and don't also forget the economic contribution of the Isokos to the state. You know, after Oloibiri, we became the second place that crude oil was discovered. We've never been honored for that. As we speak right now, we are one of the largest contributors in gas and in crude, you know, that makes Delta State the leading oil and gas producing state in the whole country. And if you look at the history, we've had intellectually sound minds who have come out of the Isoko nations, who have made their contributions to not just the state, even to the country. So it is time for the states to come together and say, no, you've not had a fair share when it comes to equity distribution of executive power. It should be your turn this time around. And that is also one of the things. But what is important in this case is not whether power shift to central, power shift to south or not. What is important in this dispensation is that we should produce a governor. And the people should determine that.
Yeah, I'm still wondering, although you have talked about what you're going to do, and there are beautiful things, of course, and very attractive. But I'm still wondering, we have two formidable candidates. Omagege and Sharif. These are all candidates have strong people also backing them. I'm just wondering how you defeat these guys. What are you bringing to the table in clear terms that you think can make you defeat these prominent politicians?
Well, you call them prominent politicians. I've had the opportunity. I was a former member of APC in leading up to the 2019 elections. I've had the opportunity to work with or work alongside Omagege. He's a great leader. I respect him so much. He has respect for me as well as a young man, you know. And but I think that in this dispensation, the both big political parties are going into this battle with borrowed armies. You know, the reason, yes, borrowed army. Okay. Yeah, the reason why I say that is because they are not coming with a united front. We all know the problems of the PDP. You know, the sheriff that eventually emerged as a candidate is a candidate of the governor, as against what Sibori offered the party, which was supposed to be their laid down rules, according to some people, you know. So that is a divided house already. And then the APC, there are a lot of disgruntled APC people who feel that Omagege came into the party, or rather took away all the structures for himself and all that. And what we see clearly shows itself. The governorship candidate of the APC in 2019 election, Great Ogboro, that I stepped down for, has decided to even leave the APC. So it clearly tells you that there is division there. He's now a candidate of the ABGA. Well, Keyamo, who is my friend, you know, still a political party. I know a lot of APC people who have said that at the national level they will vote for Tinubu, but at the state level they will abstain. You know, so because they are not in unity. So there is no better time to fight this big political party than now. And don't also forget that too, I just said it before, that the two political parties look like a very powerful political party, but in terms of result they've shown in the last elections, there is I don't really think that they are strong as they claim they are. They just have party faithfuls, and over time has been a big advantage for them moving on to this very level. So I believe that 2023 election, it's an election that they can be defeated.
Okay, you have a question. I was going to ask a question. So how would you assess the current state government or government administration?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Maybe you should just break it down for us.
Well,
which area
infrastructure, revenue generation. I mean, we're currently rated as the state with the second highest debt profile after Lagos. And then when you just oppose that with what is supposed to have accrued to the state, and you see the level of borrowing even till 2 weeks ago, then you have a leadership problem in that dispensation. And then you see a lot of people are complaining. Teachers are not paid, pensioners are not paid. All of the institutions that are supposed to touch the lives of the ordinary people are failing in infrastructure, are failing in all the all that is needed for the people to stand out as a state that is blessed with all of these resources that I've just talked about. And then you look at you cannot see a clear direction where the government has been going in the last 8 years. So I met Ibori recently, and I told him in my meeting with him, I said, you and I know that this state is broke. If Delta State as it is right now was to be a business, it would have gone bankrupt. Clearly. So, but because it is people-oriented, people need to live and all that, it cannot just collapse. People cannot just start falling and fainting. That's why we are still where we are. So what that means is that when I see my political opponent from the big political parties you're talking about, promising electorate, I'll give you roads, I'll give you schools, where are you going to get the money from? Nobody is talking about how you can increase the revenue generated externally and internally. All you are promising, which means that any one of them who comes into power now will only add up to the borrowing because there's no money in the coffers. We do not have the government today with all the serial borrowing cannot leave money behind for any new government that will come and take it. So who do you need as a leader now? You need a leader with a foresight, that has a foresight to be able to increase internally generated revenue. You have a leadership that will be able to look at the potential that we have as a state and harness those potential in a way that you can use them to attract investments to yourself. And Nigeria, with the current rating of Nigeria within the fiscal world and the current rating of our state within the local borrowing, you need to start to look from the outside. And when you look from the outside, what do you see then? Foreign direct investment. That's the only thing that can help the country. That's the only thing that can help the state.
So when you talk about revenue problem, it appears you are saying that if you get elected, you'll be focusing on foreign direct investment rather than increasing the tax net within Delta State.
Yes.
What specific areas do you really want to use to improve revenue?
Okay. I have told everyone who care to listen that on that ballot, I am the only one who has a policy that will generate foreign direct investment into Delta State. And my target is 26 billion in my first 1 year in office. $26 billion in my first 1 year in office. How am I going to do that? My experience over time in Europe has opened my eyes to several opportunities that are begging to be tapped. We're not going to be a state who will be begging for arms. I've told them that the moment in my first 100 days in office, I'm going to scrap all levies on keke riders, all extortion on our old women and our young people who have decided not to do crime and hustle for themselves. And then you bring touts who go around extorting them 150 naira per day in what they sell. They cannot even make ends meet from it. I'm going to scrap all those because I would not want my economy to be based on revenue generated from people who are already dying. So I'm going to scrap that. Now, what do I bring in? Foreign direct investment is a trickish line. How? Because currently Nigeria is saying, do you know that a research recently has shown that Nigeria is the second most unsafe country in the whole world after Iraq, which means that Afghanistan is safer than here. Just a few months ago, you saw what the Western embassies did by naming and shaming, by telling the whole world that they are evacuating their staff. I was in Nigeria at that time, evacuating their staff because they sense insecurity and all that. The impression that the world has about Nigeria is that before we finish this meeting, we will hear bomb exploding outside of your compound. And those things affect investments to come in. Now, how do I want to bring it in, like he just said? over time, I have built relationship with people who have trusted. Now I'm talking about currency that you get from outside that is strong, that can boost. And then in all of this planning, you can incorporate several things. You can do training. For instance, if as a governor, if I go to a Dutch company that builds ship, and I want to acquire a fishing trolley, for instance, in acquiring that fishing trolley and relying on the company to do the financing while I come in with a 15% equity counterpart funding, I will also be able to incorporate in that business plan a school that will train people on how to repair fishing trolleys. So with that, you are now creating sustainable job opportunities for some of your jobless people, while at the same time leaving certain persons at the top to manage that business. So foreign direct investment, on that ballot, the investor needs confidence, needs trust. So they will rather go for a person, a candidate, a governor who can secure their investments and guarantee return on their investments. And that position is what my 27 years gives to me as an advantage that I will bring in. And then we cannot look at, you come from the senatorial north, look at Asaba textile mill, for instance. What better time do you even need that textile mill than now, where everybody, look at all of us here, we are wearing Nigerian made outfits. What better time do you need to invest money in that textile mill? You hear of Hollandis, right? Yes, in a small town called Hermon. They were families. They came together in the 19th century to set up that business. Till today, they still enjoy patronage. They have expanded beyond the shores of that small village. Textile, what they even cannot sell in the Netherlands. Nobody wear what they produce in the Netherlands. We patronize them. What stops us from matching them with our own state-of-the-art equipment? I met a Dutch guy who told me that he was born when the father was an expatriate in a Asaba textile mill. He was the one that told me that as at the time the father was working there, Asaba textile mill football club had 3 persons playing for the Nigerian Green Eagles at that time. I didn't know those facts when I came from Delta. And he told me that only once you become the governor and you do anything in that direction, I will do anything in my capacity to help you wake it up. Because my identity, that place has how do I put it? That place is part of my history. It cannot just go to waste like that. So why can't we do that?
But then the question many would ask you would then be the issue of transparency. If the current government in Delta, the Kowa government, is borrowing so much and it's also collecting so much money from the federal government as well as the oil revenue, the reason why it appears the state is not improving is because of the mismanagement of funds. Yeah. Even if you generate that much money from foreign direct investment, like you are saying, what is the guarantee of transparency and accountability? What would you bring to ensure that you are more accountable to people that on the finances? And in relation to that, is that would you be willing to publicly declare your assets as a governor if elected?
Of course. I mean, I don't even have much to say. That declaration is very easy. It will take me half an hour to tell the whole world what I own. Well, I'm not getting at you.
Because you have not studied.
So I will declare my asset. I've looked at the Delta State's website. It's a shame. Transparency starts from there. I will set up one of the best interactive, user-friendly websites ever known by any African government. I will set that up, and then I will use that as an instrument to engage Deltans to carry out oversight function on every inflow and outflow that comes from the state. So what that means is that from day one, every revenue we generate, we will put it out there. Every expenditure we make, we will put it out there. every contract we give out, we will put it out there. If I construct a 10-kilometer road, we will put it out there. If they come and they say the project is finished and is commissioned, we will put it out there. So if you endorse the website will be so user friendly that you can upload videos and pictures directly on sectors. So if we tell the world that we've just built a hospital, that it's the best in Africa, anybody can go there and make a picture and say, look what is the best hospital. Look at what they said is the best hospital, and put their counter. So with that, I will be able to sit down anywhere in the world with my phone and constantly checking how the people are responding to things that I have asked my ministries to put out there. So I don't need people, because one of the things that killed the government of the day in Nigeria is the bureaucracy between the governor, his employed staff, and the people. Most times, even the governor don't see what the people are using to criticize him because of the parts. And that is because they have not put in enough effort in bypassing this line, even though the lines are necessary, in bypassing this line to also on their own check what is going on. I'm going to do a lot of things that I've seen the Europeans do. I can go to sites unannounced. I can check projects that have been completed. As long as my part goes through that, I'm going to be conscious. That is why you need somebody who has the temperament, the young, dynamic, strong, can be everywhere at every given time to monitor those processes. And when you look at it now, what will I be stealing those money for now? Because I have basically what most of our politicians steal for. God has given me the opportunity to enjoy it without even having money. You know, people steal to stay in Transcorp Hilton just to be seen as, we don't still sleep there now. We don't get the money now. You understand? So I cannot steal now for those, I've seen the Europe. I've seen, will I now steal and go and put money in Dubai or put some money in Swiss account, or what am I?
Comrade, my word is this. Because we have done this thing for a long time. We have interviewed people like this. But you discover that when they get there, it becomes different.
Yes.
I don't know how.
No, I will explain. I will explain that part. I understand.
Somebody was a comrade, right?
Yes. You see, some people. You have two categories of good people. You have the ones who really want to do something, but why putting all energy in trying to get to that place where they do something, they don't think about the challenges that they will confront. They don't think about, they're not their own adversaries. They're not their own people who look at themselves and say, okay, what then happens if this happened like this, if that happened like that? Then you have another category of people who think of doing something, but they also understand the challenges that can come. So they are prepared for the challenges that can come. And majority of our politicians who really go there to want to do something, get into that position, from this part of not calculating the force that will also, action and reaction are equal and opposites. So when you punch a wall, the same energy you exert on that punch is the same energy the wall gives back to you. And then don't also forget the path with which they got into that position. They have made compromises along the road. So you shouldn't expect that you will not pay for those compromises that you've made. As I sit down here today, I do not have any godfather. Nobody has dipped his hand in his pocket to commit me with any kind of financial inducement, with a contractual agreement that once I become the governor, this is what I will pay back. I am almost at the finishing line, and if there is anything I'm thankful to God for, is that I will finish without anybody coming out to say, I made Sonny the governor. On March 11, once I become the governor of Delta State, be rest assured that it was God and the people that he kept on my path. And the way those people helped me to become the governor is a way that none of them can compromise. And Nigeria need a leadership like that. A leadership that will bulldoze its way, knowing fully well that the prize ahead is where we need to focus on and not be distracted by the negativity that comes. My state is up for grab. Who becomes the governor of my state? It is only God that knows the person.
You have a question? Okay, I should go ahead. Okay. Yeah, you've you've talked about your economic agenda. It's very, very beautiful. Okay, what about security? Yeah, because it's a major issue in the country today. Data inclusion. Yeah, because we still have incidents of kidnapping and all that, killings and deaths like. So what is your insecurity?
Well, let me not talk about the national issue, but let me narrow it down to Delta State. Security is a big challenge. One of the things I want to achieve as a governor is that I want to sit down with the oil multinational companies. I want to tell them that you cannot continue to drill our crude oil, drill our gas, and then take your corporate headquarters to other locations. That is also one area I'm going to internally generate revenue. I will make sure they come back. Even if you are not coming back, you must set up a proxy office that will make my state be entitled to some of the profit you make from my place through corporate taxes. And you must we must look into the labor force that you bring into my state. Why they drill, you cannot continue to have people who will just pass by as experts and drill, make their money, whatever, pay their taxes in their home countries, then pay their subventions somewhere in Lagos and all of those places, and just pass by, drill, leave our place polluted, and you go, no. We must reach a form of agreement where we must tap into the number of labor force that comes into your place. Some kind of monies have to come. If you cannot bring your whole headquarters, your whole corporate offices back to my state. But then, of course, if you want to negotiate with these people, the issue of security comes in. How can we bring our corporate headquarters to your place where our pipelines are not even secured, let alone our our workers? So this is where the security aspect becomes a key part of my policy. And how do I want to deal with it? God has given us a state that has already taken care of itself in terms of how you approach the issue of security. You're from Delta State. Now, if you look at Delta State, there are three, apart from the tropical area, apart from the coastlines, there are three ways you can enter Delta State. Through Edo State, the Benin Saple Road, right? Through, if you're coming from Bayelsa and Rivers, through Patani, right? Before you get to Weli Patani, yes. Patani. And then if you're coming from Anambra, you just cross the River Niger, and then you enter. So what you do, first of all, is to ensure that you fortify these three entry points into the state. There are modern technology in the 21st century that can make you do that. When you heard of these homegrown terrorists killing people in France, what did French do? The French did not carry barricades, so you don't see armies. But what they've done now is that they've placed unmanned vehicles at their entry border points. And in some cases, for them to deceive you as if the place is open, they push those vehicles out and then they put them as a decoy at exit locations. Sometimes, a few times when I drive into France, you just see a long queue all of a sudden, and then you see that they are diverting, the road is diverting, they just block the road like this. Everybody is diverted to go off the major highway. And then you go out, you do like a 3-kilometer bend, you reach a roundabout, you turn, and then you come from the other side as if you're coming from that town to now go back into the highway. But as you're moving, there is an unmanned vehicle that has the capacity to estray every vehicle that is passing. Can even identify a pistol in your pocket while you are a passenger in the car. This is where we are in the 21st century. How do you deal with an issue where somebody kidnaps somebody and he's using a mobile phone to call for ransom, and then he collects money in cash? He has just given you everything you need to pick him up in the next 24 hours. So it is a political will problem. Not that the solution is not out there. So as a governor, my state will become a state that will be recognized within the country as a state. You cannot there do things and go away scot-free, because we will ensure that we secure all these border points that we're talking about.
How do you do that when security is largely in the hands of federal government and you don't have permission for the state police yet?
Yeah, you can. There's what we call, there's what the Europeans do. They call it, I'm looking for the word, but there's a way they do it. Sometimes you see police just moving around with bicycle and all that. He's not really doing anything, but he's telling who is doing something, that we know you are doing something. You know, they will not be. You just imagine if you're a bad guy, three of us were planning something by the gate there, and then suddenly you see a police vehicle pass, and then the next thing you see another one pass the other side. You start to run, because you start to feel guilty conscience is always afraid. You start to feel that they know something about you. They just put men out there to go. So now you're talking about affiliation with the federal and all that, not having license to do that, but that does not also stop you from having your own security network. People are working with even vigilante group this time around. You can strengthen them. You can give them, all of this, like this unmanned vehicles that I'm talking about, you can have a command and control center where all those information come. If as a government, if you build a good relation, we're all human beings. I've seen Nigerians. It is what you give to them that they give back to you. If you build a good working relationship with the head of DSS that comes to your state, they all have security meetings every once in a week or every once in a month. If you have a good relationship with whoever comes into your state as the DSS head, as the head of the police, as the head of the Navy, the head of the Army, and you have this synergy and you come up with this arrangement, they all want to also score good points. That as at the time they were, for instance, as at the time he was commissioner of police in Delta State, the rate of crime dropped to a certain level. And if you carry this to the international community and you have a reward system for it, where police officers who are gone down in the course of defending or protecting, they get compensated. Every month that there is no crime, there is a certain remuneration that go to the armed forces. You give them all the equipment they need, they'll give you results. They will definitely give you results. So once you have a command and control center and you relate messages to all of the security arms, you will be able to also monitor the process if they are using the information or not. If they're not using the information, you work with them on how you can provide all that they need to be able to use the information. If as a governor, I give it 200 vehicles to the Nigerian police to help strengthen their work, they will give me a result. So this is where we have to start from. Once we start like that and we are able to capture all of these problems, and then we're able to phantom a workable solution through bringing all our energies together, we can be able to deal with the issue of security. But don't forget also that one of the things I am sure that government is not looking into, which I will definitely look into, is I've studied the terrain of Delta. We have flatlands in majority. Despite we are swampy areas, we have flatlands in majority of the areas. We can adopt the Western style. Why do you think Western countries have every 15 kilometers you see gas station here, you see gas station there? It's also a way of curbing crimes on the highway. Because it makes the road very busy. It makes you know that if you're doing something 5 kilometers away, people are 5 kilometers away from you tanking. If they're not tanking, they are sleeping because of those trucks. In Europe today, you can't drive more than 2 hours without parking for another 2 hours as a truck driver to rest. It is sleep, fatigue, tiredness that is making us here every day that trucks are running out of the road. So, what stops us from privatizing most of those lands on our highway, attracting mega filling stations to come here, come there, put a bridge across, create places for restaurants, create places, even if we don't have energy, we can use solar power, and 2 kilometers before and 2 kilometers after, we can use solar power to power the lights that leads into that place, so that we can at least have a functioning nightlife. Then you can have 200 motorcycles, even if you don't get license for them to carry arms, let them just be patrolling. Patrol to the next one, patrol and come back, patrol. You give this sense of safety, security to the people who are coming in, and then you have a way you welcome them. This unmanned vehicle that I'm talking about, you're not going to hide them. You're going to make everybody know that, look, the moment you enter my state, it is no longer business as usual. We capture you. We know how you move. You live. In most European countries today, at the border points, you have a camera, not for speed. The cameras are just to monitor the cars that go out and come in. So when you declare a car missing, the first thing they check is the database of those border cameras. If they see that they've not been able to, if they see from the camera that the car did not go out of the country, then they narrow their search within the country. So they know the car is within the country. So you take it one step at a time. I know it's going to be difficult, but when you bring in the idea and you inculcate that idea in the minds of the people, and you start to educate them through commercials, patronizing media outlets like yours, telling the people the disadvantage, oh, we want to bring these multinational oil companies back to our place. When they come, we will create jobs. But in order to create jobs, we have to deal with the issue of security. That is why they left us in the first place. Let us try and see how we can romance with them. Anybody who commits a crime, he will face the strong arm of the law. And then they see these things happening. Before you know it, Nigerians will gradually start to adjust. I don't think we are that stubborn not to see good things and everything.
Back to look at politics again. Just some minutes ago, you said you met former governor. What was his response to your mission? Did he buy into your ambition and your programs?
Well,
you don't want to take us through that.
My meeting with him was not secret. He's a man that I respect so much. He's a man that edifies my state, because whether in Europe, whether in Nigeria, when I first of all met OBJ and Obasanjo, and I told him I was going to be a governorship candidate in 2019, the first thing he told me was that, go see Ibori. He used this word, he said, love him or hate him, go see him. You see, when a man has built his name to that level where everybody talks about you, that means there is something good in you. You know, I consulted him not because I feel he will vote for me or he will hold my hand and endorse me as a candidate, because he's a core PDP person. So even if you have division, even if they have division within their political party, that does not mean that he will easily just go out and begin to endorse. And he has managed his profile very well. He's not controversial. He's not in the news talking about here and there, you know. So I respect him for that. I call him daddy. He sees me as a son. Now, I went to him to appeal to him that with that name you carry, with your personality in the States, 2023 should not be business as usual. Please use everything you have to create a level playing field for everyone, so that we will contest and allow the Deltas to decide for us who eventually become their governor in this next dispensation. And whoever becomes the governor, your position as an elder statesman in the state, even if I'm the governor, your position as an elder statesman in the state will be appreciated, respected. I also did the same thing with Udwala. I met Udwala. He was two-time governor of the state. You cannot be running for an office like this and not tap into the knowledge, experience of men like Udwala and Ibori. That is what I went there. But then I also told him something. I said, this is the time for us to pick a leadership that truly understands the plight of the people and comes with the right solution to take our people off poverty. As we speak right now, I don't want to say country Nigeria, we do not have a middle class.
You speak so glowingly about Ibori. He is a thief that stole public funds and was actually convicted in the UK.
Yes.
Why are you associating with somebody like that?
No, this is not. It's not.
You want to bring transparency to government.
No, but that does not mean that we must take people like that out of the equation. This is democracy. You know, he has people that respect him. He has huge followership. For you to be able to tapping, you need to take your message to him. I did not go there. He has his personal life. He has issues that he has dealt with in the past. But he's significant to the politics of my state. Therefore, he is a critical stakeholder. One, as a two-time governor of the state. His experience, he has knowledge of the office that I am running as a young man to want to go into there. So I did not go there to celebrate him as a person, but I went there to speak to him as a son seeking the office that he has had for the last 8 years. So, and then as a governor, he will be a critical stakeholder also, because there will be moments where I will need advice. It is now left for me to weigh the advice if it will fit into what I have promised the Deltans that I want to give to them. You know, you had this case in the UK. Everybody have had one thing or the other, but we must not take out who he is in the politics of my state. And that is the reason why I went to see him.
Okay, lastly from me, the last one. Yeah, okay, yeah. You are contesting on the platform of Young
Progressive Party.
As the name connotes, have these young guys been buying into your program?
Yes. Yes, they have been buying into the program. But unfortunately, over the years, we have had a terrible economy that has made people so impoverished to the extent that they no longer see tomorrow. They are content with what they get now, no matter how small it is. It will shock you how much some people get to come out of their house. I mean, families, married people with children, with wife with children, how much they get out. Most of those political rallies that you see, you know, filled to the brim and all that, it's all money induced. Some people don't even know why they're in those rallies, you know. And then you see, if you really want to have a feel of, let me give you an instance. In 2019, I was at the rally where the President Buhari came to hand over the flag, how they call it, flag to Great Ogboru at the Warri Township Stadium. I think it was on a Wednesday. They started from 10, but by 1 p.m. The president had come, and the stadium was filled to capacity. And then one of the officials, state officials, they were so happy, they were beaming with smile. And he turned to me and he said, comrade, man, we finished work here. We did well. Oh. Look at the stadium filled. So I turned to him. I told him that if I was the president of this country, Wednesday, 1 p.m., more than 75% of this population young, I would declare state of emergency. It calls for sober reflection. It shows that they are jobless.
Yeah.
This is not something we should celebrate. Where I come from, election day, the election ends 9 p.m. and majority of the population vote between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. because you cannot tell your boss at work that you are taking off because you want to go and vote. Would that vote put food on the table? No. So they create a time that is convenient for everyone to do their normal thing and come vote. Now you are clapping because multitude of people have come out on a day. Do you know how much you're losing in revenue here? Income taxes. If they had what they were doing, they wouldn't be here. So crowd is not a way of assessing success in politics. So that is to tell you where we are. The young people, they embrace the idea. They want to see change. They have fantastic ideas on how they can change that. Look at what you're doing right now. Do you know how much energy, how much money it costs you to put yourself? I was telling somebody today I'm at Transcorp Hilton. I opened my Wi-Fi speed. I told somebody, I said, do you know how much I paid here for a night? 200 and something thousand a night. That's even cheaper a night. But look at their speed, Wi-Fi speed. 56 megabyte per second. 56. In my house in Rotterdam, it is 1,000 megabyte per second. No, but it's true now. So if I become, once I am the governor and I steal all the money and I am internet savvy and I need to upload stuff, is it 56 years that I will pride myself that I stole for? It is poor. But nobody is looking at that. Nobody is talking. So if Transcorp can give that, then what do you expect? Oh, you better not just start to go Wi-Fi for the smaller hotels. So it's an institutional problem. So we have young boys who God has given brains to, intelligent, creative. They want to do something, but the system is forcing them and pulling them down, and they are compromising, even when they know that they are compromising. These are the people that are listening to me. But then I am still praying that God should take it from just being a listener to giving me that position to be able to understand and reason with them how we can take them from that level. We have people who can create, who can develop our society in a way that our middle class can run our economy. No economy can strive in any developed society without the middle class making huge contribution to the economic growth.
Thank you so much, Comrade Ofehe. Well, I just want to, I'll mention these 7 words separately. I don't know, just give me either one word or one sentence that comes to your mind when these words are mentioned. Delta State.
A blessed state.
YPP.
An innovative party.
Why?
Disappointment to many of us.
Niger Delta.
A pregnant woman that is still carrying pregnancy that is more than 9 months now.
State police.
Can do more but lack all that is needed to encourage them to do more.
The amnesty program.
A failed system.
Resource control.
Not something we should push beyond what it is now, because what we have is not properly managed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.